Yeah, so this other song is another love song. I really don't like love songs, but they're just easy to write because it's easy to keep them about the same thing, so I don't get too drifty. But this one was cool because when I wrote it, I had been trying to say the things that I wrote about for a long time, and so I finally said them in this song. So that was kind of nice to get it out. I'm sorry for how I back away from all the things I say I want to do. You should know it's because of me and how I'm scared to leave it all behind. But take my word when I say I have lots of quarters and dollars in a mason jar for all the trips we're gonna take. And soon I'll be ready for all the risks and stakes of running away. So don't you worry, we'll get out of here real soon. And then we'll build a house in the forest just like we say we want to. And nobody will stop us, no parents or walls or lack of cars or surplus of distance. Just you with me and me with you, and us together will be totally free at last. Can't you just picture it? We'll get back from the whole world and want a place to settle down. We'll drive really far away until we find a spot where the ground hasn't been touched. And all the quarters and dollars will go towards windows and counters and floors and a bed. We can sit on the front porch and hold hands and talk about doing it all again. So don't you worry, we'll get out of here real soon. And then we'll build a house in the forest just like we say we want to. And nobody will stop us, no parents or walls or lack of cars or surplus of distance. Just you with me and me with you, and us together will be totally free at last.
Questions for Kat?
How long does it take you to write a song? Those songs in particular, how long did it take you? And then my other question is, how do you decide on the chords?
So usually it takes me such a long time to write a song because I write a verse and I don't finish it. But those ones, I was sick for like a week, 2 weeks ago, and I just wrote a bunch of songs, and that never happened. So those ones I actually wrote in probably an hour. But the second one, I actually was going through my computer and I found chords that I had written a long time ago, and I was like, oh, I should maybe do something with these. So that's how that happened. And how I don't know how I pick chords. I don't know. I don't know.
Just whatever sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So some people have really big strength in one area or another, and I noticed that's one of the things that Kat, and then we all have an affinity towards different things, but I have always loved your chord progressions. They are just stellar, amazing. And it's fascinating to see what we drift towards in terms of chord progressions, I think. Other thoughts for Kat?
I have a question. I'm just curious how it feels performing a cover versus something you wrote yourself.
Good question.
Performing a cover is a lot less scary because a lot of pressure is lifted off you because if it's bad, it's not your fault because you didn't. I mean, unless you mess up, like if the song is bad, it's like, well, it's a bad song. But then you like don't take credit for that because you didn't write it. So, and also, you're saying like. It's like if you're reading a book to class versus you're reading your own poem to class. Like there's a big difference. You get more nervous when you're reading your own words to someone. It's more personal. So it's just scarier.
Other thoughts for Kat? Other questions? Ellie?
Does it really inspire you when you write your songs? Do you think of any particular artist, or is it just your brain?
So that's actually an interesting question because like 2 years ago, I listened to Jason Mraz, my favorite artist, and so that was still when I was a new guitar player, so a lot of my guitar playing style kind of comes from him, but what I listen to now is different, so I'm at this stage where I can't yet play what I want to write. Does that make sense? So I guess that right now my inspiration is still Jason Mraz because that's how I know how to work a guitar, but I think that if I could play different instruments or play them differently, my music would sound different. Does that make sense? It would sound more like the music I listen to now.
Anna? Any question?
How do you get from that point of like realizing that you want to write something to actually getting it down?
Well, see, it's hard because a lot of times when I really want to say something, I say it all in one song, and then there's way too much information in this one song, and I realize that I can't do that, so I have to like take parts out and put them all in separate songs. But I guess just that, like when there's something you're really passionate about, and it's something that you can't have a conversation with someone about because they might not understand, or you don't know how to say it yet, a really good way to get it out is to put it to music, and it just sometimes that helps it like make more sense.
I have a question actually just came to me kind of based on what Anna was just asking. For those people who are poets or creative writers as well as songwriters, the difference, how does it feel different to write poetry or creative writing versus writing a song? And any of the songwriters, Carrie, you want to answer that? For you?
Creative writing doesn't feel like me. And I know that sounds silly, but like I don't write poetry. I write like either prose or like short stories, like really short stories. But although you are writing it and some of your traits and thoughts might get down on the paper, it does not feel as personal because it's someone else. You know, like, I mean, you did the writing, but it's like another character speaking, for instance. But with songwriting, no matter where you come from, that came from you. You know what I mean? You can't hide behind that in any way.
That's interesting. I don't write much creative writing, but I write poetry, and I feel more authentic in poetry because I don't have to follow as much of a structure, so I feel the ability to be more fluid with it, and I guess that makes me, it makes it more authentic, I guess. Not my music isn't, but it's just easier to write authentic poetry because you're not following chords or melodies or musical.
That's a classic case of we all have different feelings about the kind of writing that we do and at different kinds of writings at different times. Anybody else want to share? I mean, you don't have to be in the class if you're a songwriter or a poet. You want to answer part of that question. I think it's an interesting discussion point for all of us. Kat?
I feel like poetry's a lot less stressful for me.
Poetry's less stressful.
Because I feel like my songs are usually poems, and then I try to put them into a melody, and as Carrie found out very quickly, I have trouble with that because I'll either change keys and do something weird, or she's making fun of me for like a week because of that. And I feel like In poetry, it flows really easily for me, and in songwriting, I think of it as like different parts that I need to find a way to fit together with the music, and especially since I don't really play an instrument well enough to be able to write a song as much, it's like it's a buffer for everything that I'm saying. So.
Anna?
Again, not much of a creative writer or a songwriter, but I find that when I do try to write, I enjoy, there's like two sides of my writing. It's like the side where I really like the sound of what I'm writing, and I like the way the words sort of turn, but it's not always, I can't always do that when I actually want to say something. I'll write like pretty poetry, and then I'll write like meaningful poetry, and it's a very rare occasion, and I'm very excited when I can get the two to mix. But it doesn't happen nearly as often as I would like.
Yeah, I can wholeheartedly feel that same. I'm for myself as a songwriter, I find that there's something about, in defense of songwriting, that there's which is, I love this discussion, but that there's something about singing the poetry, because I've read poetry and songs, that the singing of it, there's something physical, something that, and I think that probably for spoken word poets they would feel the same way. But there's something about singing a melody line with poetry that feels very body connected. I don't know if anybody else has an experience like that, but that's just my experience. Okay, well, what I'd like to